Hey everybody, happy Wednesday to you. Hope you guys are having a good day. Hope you're braving the snow all right. It has been snowing since about 5 a.m. here and it is still going
Wow.
strong. So we're going to hope that we can keep the power alive down here. If there's any sudden stops, you
You know
know,
why?
you know why.
Okay, yeah, because the little bit of snow here too, like, not staying on the ground, but it's flurrying through the day. Um,
Yeah, yep.
that's pretty crazy. Pretty crazy.
So welcome to Midnight Snowy Live, the weekly variety show where we talk Gundam gaming and Gunpla. I am Steven, aka Midnight Hatter, your host, and joining me as always, the Blue Gamer Gundam Explainer, Adam Blue. How are you, sir?
Hey, doing good, doing good. I'm excited about the topic. I always like either sometimes will talk early and be like, "Hey, this is what we'll talk about," or sometimes you'll drop like a bomb of a thumbnail, and I'm like, "Oh, there
Yeah,
we go."
let's just do something. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, tonight's stream brought to you by LoLa PC app, which is back up and running. As you guys know, I've been using this app for a while now, and I'm really excited to share it with you guys. Link down in the description if you wanted to get started for free. It is a remote cloud PC streaming app, and what we are going to be using it for today is, Adam and I talk a lot of smack about Gundam and video games and how, like, oh well, if we were making a Gundam video game, we'd do it this way. And um, so I mean, I think it's probably about time we put our money where our mouth is. And so I think if
Yeah,
we're gonna try and do a little asset flip here tonight, we might get some gameplay down. I've got some
cool.
templates that we're gonna be working from, so hopefully that's gonna speed things up so that we're not, sitting here all night waiting for me to like animate a character controller. Um, but so the real asset and benefit of using Lola PC app is, in the past, whenever Adam and I have done something like this, whether I'm doing something in Blender, whether we're working on a Unity, working on a Unity game, I would probably need to have like a separate PC like on standby because my computer just doesn't have the encoding power to handle like high resolution graphics plus high resolution streaming to YouTube and Twitch.
Yeah.
So what we're doing now is I actually have it set up so that I am streaming the cloud PC on one of my monitors and then I've got the stream set up on the other one. So I'm able to capture everything that's going on the external computer and show it to you guys. So that's what we're going to be doing this evening, and I hope
And
you guys are excited for it.
that's cool because really this is cutting edge, and I don't think people realize it a lot. When you're offloading a lot of your resources, whatever you're doing, to cloud computing, which is algorithms. It's not any different than AI. It's just really cool to think like,
Yeah.
when Lola PC is a good example one, but the GeForce Now, just
Hmm.
streaming resources, so it's less energy consumption. Yeah, because even with, I think I have a super powerful PC, and sometimes when I'm streaming games on OBS, like, OBS will start telling me, "Hey, encoder overload," and I'm like, "Ah, crap, what do I have to adjust? I can't have my graphics all the way," and it's like, "Yeah, get that additional PC." And sometimes it sounds crazy, an additional PC? I'm telling you, it's the streaming is really where it's gonna be.
I think so. And we talk a lot on this channel about, physical media and making sure that you own the kind of things that you own, but hardware is one of those things that sometimes it is kind of better to rent. Think about it with like your cell phones, for example. Most people are essentially just leasing their phones and renting them until the next new phone comes out. I have a buddy that like basically every 2 years he gets the latest and greatest phone. If you guys know me, you know that I've been rocking an iPhone 5S, probably for way too long. My daughter shattered it the other day, so I did. I am upgrading to an iPhone X. So,
Nice.
again, not the latest and greatest by any stretch of the imagination, but at least I'll be able to play SD G
Eh.
Generation Eternal, which,
Oh.
speaking of, that's kind of the game that we're going to try and make tonight without the SD, because obviously,
Oh,
you
yeah,
know,
right, we don't, yeah,
we don't do SD here, right?
You know what? Back to the phone thing real quick. It's interesting when you talked about we're kinda renting it,
Oh,
because,
yeah.
I mean, while that is true, it's even more further truth because there's actual valuable materials And just as a normal consumer, we don't have the simple means of redistributing those resources into something valuable. We can sell it, but that market isn't probably, and then it really depends.
No.
Even if it was broken, there's still valuable stuff.
Absolutely. I mean, for a long time, I was using like old cell phones as my web cameras because it was just
Oh,
easier to do that
yeah.
than to have like a Logitech camera. So let's see here. Sorry, I'm just going ahead and I figured I should probably go ahead and start a project now. So as you can see, I threw up the the screen share here where you can see what we've got going on. I'm going to go ahead and use the Universal 3D engine here. We're going to do Midnight Hatter as publisher. Let's not connect to the Unity cloud, and we're going to call this G. Oh nope. Apparently, apparently, command doesn't work when I'm streaming a.
Oh. Oh, yeah, you're in a Windows environment.
Yeah, I'm on Windows now on this. And so this is fascinating. So I have it set so that it'll capture the whole screen. So like obviously if I do my gestures and I swipe up, you can
Ah,
see that I've got the Mac desktop underneath the full
that
screen
is
display here. So
excellent.
let's go ahead and get this project created so that we can get started here. But while this is loading up, we can continue talking about this subject because it is uh there's so many things that I think in certain contexts we're okay with it, but then when you put it in another context, it's like, no, of course I'll never rent a PC. That's insane. And it's like, but yeah, you essentially rent your phone. But if you guys know anything about my personal background, like I work for a company that sells recycled golf balls. And so one of the jokes that we go with is like, oh, we're a golf ball rental service
Yeah.
because essentially you're going to hit them in the water at some point. We're going to go get them and then we're going to sell them back to you. So it's that's kind of the inside joke. Um yeah, what other things can you think of that we do like long-term rentals and then but we don't have as much apprehension about it as the idea of like a PC?
Well, you know what? Almost buying a house
Oh
sometimes
yeah.
can seem like that, you know? Especially living in a time where and it's almost like it's agreed upon where, yes, your house, your mortgage is gonna be huge and large and put you in a lot of debt, but that's what everyone's gonna do, so everyone gets credit for one mortgage, you know what I mean? It's kinda like
Yeah.
the system is set up like that. It but you know what? I don't know if this is related somehow because you were talking about the physical stuff,
Mhm.
with the cloud and like it just reminded me of something. I was getting out my Castlevania records. I like to listen to records. It's kind of like a thing like I set it up and then the intention is to listen to that side, have to get up, turn around. Anyway, that's all the talking that I don't need to do. I
No,
got
honestly, I agree with you, like, that's it's one of those things that people take for granted because we talk about that all the time as well, people that, like, take for granted that, "Oh, you can just stream an episode of Gundam from whatever site and just,
and then
tune it
not
out
take
in the
it as
background."
intentionally because
The there's not a deliberate action attached to it of, like,
yeah.
"I'm going to put this disc into that machine and sit down and consume this content." I hate saying "consume this content," but you know what I mean.
Yeah, even though it's what we're doing,
Oof.
partake in the expression of one other, I don't know. But no, I pulled out this was the Aria of Sorrow, the disc CD, I pull it out, and it's broken, like, along an edge, and I'm like, "Wow." So this physical media, I was having it physically, I and it's broken, and it could have been just maybe the right way it might have landed when I was maybe moving them around or something because 'cause I've listened to it. So, it's interesting to think sometimes, yeah, the physical media, I wanna hold on to it, but then it's like, well, I can now listen to it in the cloud if I wanted to listen to that album, you know?
Yeah, it's, one of the things that I've started doing is, and this I've been doing this for a long time now that I think about it, is like, for instance, I bought the special edition Zeta Gundam DVD box set,
Yeah.
right? Came with a poster, came with 9 pencil sharpeners, which
Yeah.
I'm not sure why anyone would need 9 pencil sharpeners. I think erasers makes more sense because you'll actually go through an eraser, but like,
No?
whatever. So I've got this DVD set, has all this cool special edition stuff, but, like, I don't ever actually watch those DVDs, I end
Right.
up either watching, my streamed versions that I've downloaded onto a hard drive, or I'll watch it straight off the Blu-rays. And so, there's a preservation aspect to owning that piece of physical media. But yeah, oof, I can't imagine having it in storage and like, you know,
Yeah.
just
It's so funny that you're bringing this up because I had, ripped a bunch of, Gundam and Godzilla on my MB home server. And it was the other day I was wanting to watch, one of the Gundam for research, and I couldn't pull it up. It wouldn't pull up at all. And it was because the hard drive, it's an external hard drive, had just shut off. Sometimes you have to unplug and plug it back in. But I'm like, how annoying is that? That like, or if your power goes out and you want to, this is so like first world problems. Like the power goes out and your PS5, turns off, and then you want to go into remote with your PS Portal and you can't because the
nope.
PS5 was turned off.
Oh, I mean, shoot, even if your PSN is
Oh,
inactive for the weekend, you still can't use it. Like that's
dude, that was crazy. Yeah.
yeah,
Well, and
it's
I guess though that stuff is always going to happen, just like something happening with physical.
oh yeah. And even physical objects, they do have, there's corrosion that occurs over
Yeah.
time. I just recently, when I was putting everything back up on display, all my Gundams and everything, I I was reassembling my Cubalay, which, has like the Cubalay effects parts kit and everything attached
Oh,
to it.
yeah.
And just by the nature of like the temperature changes between the garage and my basement, and then like, being on display, the plastic on some of the parts had cracked. Like literally the polycaps in the legs had split. And so the legs don't fit on anymore. Now,
Oh,
thankfully, I do have a bin full of nothing but spare polycaps, and I'm going to fix it. But like, it got me down this rabbit hole of like Transformers figures. That's like a big thing. They call it what's the word? It's a GPS, like gold plate syndrome or something like that, or gold
oh,
plastic syndrome, because apparently like gold colored plastic on Transformers figures has a bad habit of deteriorating and cracking over time. So
interesting.
you learn something new every day. Let me tell you.
Yeah. Yeah, because
Um,
sometimes when I'm, like, buying a high-end action figure, it's like, "Well, is this something that's just gonna deteriorate over time?" Can I get something that will really stand the test of time? Um, and I think the Robot Spirits do. I can see so far, this, that double X that I just got recently is from 2013. I mean, it's not that old, but
yeah, yeah. So it actually reminds me of like there's that scene in Toy Story where Woody's like telling them, I want to thank Mr. Spell for putting on that plastic corrosion awareness seminar for the toys. That was very educational for us. Like, yeah, I mean, dude, whether it's physical media as in games and movies, or physical objects like our model kits, nothing is permanent. Everything
yeah.
everything fades.
Yeah, it's just what does it mean to us exactly in the way we wanna consume it, Um Video games, I'm really there for the experience more than having a even though I do like material things, but yeah, video games I don't need physically. But,
Well,
like
and you talked about that, on, like, Blue Gamer, where it's, like, sometimes in, like, your old video game collection,
yeah,
is it's like you didn't have a collection of physical games because you were trying to, like you're not a completionist or something like that.
right.
It's like you just wanted to play the games.
Yeah, I
Um,
love playing games, so it's like I wanted to be able to access any game when I needed to. And just the thought
exactly
now
right.
that it's like I can't nearly and it's funny because there's this game that came out on the PS2 called Guy. I don't know if you heard
Ooh,
of that, but I loved it
no.
and totally forgot about it, and then it was just brought up the other day, and I'm like, "There we go, a PS2 game, the ROM is there, it's available." Used to own it, loved it, and it's like, I just love where you can find old games, and Guy was like a character action game on the PS2, and it had really good graphics and animations. Yeah.
Interesting.
There was a
I'm gonna have to check
famous
that out.
Japanese game dev that's still in the business that did the combat system.
Really? It's just like a straight up, like, third person action?
Yeah,
Or
yeah. And that was at the time when, like, those third person action games weren't all the same yet. So it still had its
yes.
kind of uniqueness to it.
Well, yeah, because not everything was being made in Unreal Engine at that point.
Yeah, I know
Which I
everything.
say as I'm over here, like, downloading assets into a Unity project.
Hey, it's what you gotta do.
Exactly.
Oh, man, if you were yeah, a publisher with all this money and they can't even make their own engine. You know, they
No.
would you would think they had all this in-house stuff that would retain employees longer, that would have this critical knowledge.
Yeah, it's kinda sad. It's like, there's a lot of different trades and things like that where there's knowledge that just isn't published anywhere, and it's not in ChatGPT yet, and
Yeah,
so there's no way to access that, and I think it's starting to become clear that, like, even creeping into things like software development, like,
yeah.
uh but yeah, so that said, you guys have probably been seeing me do some stuff in the background here. Some of the things that I've dropped into this project are TBTK, which is a turn-based toolkit. It allows you to quickly make games like uh, XCOM or, you
Advanced
know,
Wars, Shining Force. Like, what about
exactly,
combat
Fire
scenarios
Emblem.
from a JRPG?
Yeah, yeah, you can actually use it to make a JRPG too, because you just basically remove the ability to move on a map.
Oh,
And then I also brought in some basic animations that I've used in the past. The thing about this, and I've tried to do something similar to this in the past. The thing about this particular toolkit is that it requires not using root motion on your animations because all of the movement that happens in scene is script driven. So let's hop into a demo scene and I will show you guys what this kind of looks like. We've
and you're
got a
saying script
persistent scene.
driven because it's turn-based, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Um, So yeah, because it's turn-based and because it's, like, operated on a grid, they don't want the character to drive the motion on the screen. So, like, the character is animated, but they have to be animated in place, which means that a lot of animations, well, I don't wanna say a lot of them are root motion, but the ones that I was using at the time, relied on root motion. So we can go with like a classic one, or let's look at this XCOM styled demo. Looks like there's some broken textures. That's always a good sign to start. I don't know. I mean, we can see if maybe the textures will load once the game launches.
And
Uh,
would you say is it wrong to say that it's easier to make a turn-based game than a third-person action game?
yeah, I wouldn't say one's easier than the other.
Okay.
For sure.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
this
some
is
components just might have a different level of effort than others.
exactly, yeah, because setting up a character controller in any game is kind of, kinda straightforward, but then, something like this where you are going to have, scripted actions that have to occur when the user does, X or something like that, that becomes much more difficult to manage. So let's see. This still has some broken textures. Not sure if that's. I can go into the console and see if there's anything to tell in there. Doesn't look like there's any errors, which is good. Let's fire this up again and see what we get. Because
Okay.
it should allow you to kind of build your team, so to speak. Um, okay, so I see units are supposed to be here. So I think what's happening is there is just a canvas that's kind of overloading everything. So if I were to take this event system and turn it off, maybe nope. Camera, canvas overlay. Let's turn that off. Okay, well that's all of our heads up display. Yeah, but like you can see the units here up in the
Yeah.
top bar.
I guess
And
that's a
so
health bar,
everything's
maybe? A good guy, bad guy on the screen?
yeah, yeah, you've got and so this is pretty fascinating because like basically the way that this is working so far, Sammy, you are being a nuisance. Um so it's interesting because it's set up the same way as like a JRPG is like you look up in the top corner and that's your turn order. So you have red and orange units here. I'm not sure which are the. I assume that I'm the red and the enemy would be the orange, and it shows you the turn order. So it's like, okay, I can use this unit, and then it's going to be their turn, then my unit, their turn, their turn, their
Mm.
turn. Then I finally get to use one of my units again. You've got some faction abilities that are built into it, specific unit abilities. So if I were to just go in here and hit end turn, you can see that it's moving something there and
Huh.
trying to do something
Yeah.
anyway. But yeah, like I said, I think that there's just the textures haven't loaded properly, and so it's not looking right. Boom, boom, boom. So let's have a look at this and see if we can drop a texture in there. I do see there's oh yeah,
Oh,
we got a lot of errors here. Null reference exception, object reference not set to an instance of an object. So there's something in here that's not being referenced. Demo menu, and that's on UI update. Is cursor on UI? It's all on this same line, so let's take a look and see what the I don't anticipate that well, see it's trying to have me open this script in a Internet Explorer, but I know that we want to use Visual Studio Installer. That's where I got to get our scripting in. Well, while that's going,
hey,
I
you
know
just
this is such
almost shot that on the fly. Okay.
yeah. So yeah, you guys know that I'm not faking this.
Mhm.
I do in fact have yeah, let's just go ahead and install. Yes, we're gonna go without workloads. So while that's installing, I'm gonna go ahead and drop in some of these mobile suits that we've got. Um,
Oh, sweet. And where'd you get these
yeah,
from?
these are from Gundam Diorama Front, which they're pretty low poly mobile suits, but um,
Gundam Diorama Front? What is that?
it's exactly what it sounds like. It is a 3D like diorama making not even so much a game. It's like a it's like
Oh, interesting. Like,
yeah,
just those
making pretty pictures.
it reminds me of those, 90s PC game, like the Comic Book Maker with Spider-Man, you just drag little clip art of Spider-Man. Oh,
They
that's pretty cool.
dude, those things were the days, man. Like
I
I
know. I really felt like I was making something. Yeah, Gundam
um
Diorama Front.
so yeah,
Wow.
let me see here. If I were to drop in this here little mobile suit, looks like it's a little small. Let's bump up the scale here. First, let's lock our proportions and then we'll make it like okay.
Oh,
Looks like a Gundam to me.
yeah, yeah.
And the reason I'm using these particular models is because they are already rigged, so I don't have to worry about like creating animation rigs on the fly. That would probably be less fun, I imagine, for you guys. Um, and basically, the cool thing about this toolkit is if you've got your character model, if you've got like some stats in mind, you can basically create any unit that you want. So if I go into tools here and TBTK, you know what? Let's try something. Let's try to create a new scene with a hex grid. All right. So it in fact did the same thing. That quad texture is broken and missing. So if I come into here and say, blah, 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 so colors. Yeah, these look like a lot of broken color textures to me. It says that it's pink, red, orange, gray, blue, but,
Is Visual
uh,
Studio yelling at you again?
it
What are you
is,
seeing?
yeah. Oh, it's just saying all of the,
Oh,
installations are up to date,
hmm.
and
Yeah, don't
no,
do
we're not gonna sign in, we're gonna, Let's skip and add accounts later. We don't need to do all that. We are gonna go dark mode though. That's
Yeah, I have to do that. Every
oh yeah,
time I install fresh Chrome, dark mode.
you have to.
I have to.
Um, so now I can probably go back into that. Let's see if we can open the script now. There we go.
Alright. Wow, learning a lot here.
See, think these things don't just work out of the box. Like, there's some difficult. Ooh, and now it's telling me you got to use Copilot. So it was
Oh,
line 18. So line 18 says return event system is pointer over game object. That seems like a pretty straightforward question.
hey, I wonder you would probably need a Copilot license, wouldn't you, if you wanted it to review the code and be like, "Here,
Probably
I'm
so.
getting this error. Can you see why it's there?" Ah, that's the
And honestly, like, isn't that's really the future of coding is
yeah,
just rubber duck debugging with AI.
yeah,
I mean, that's what I've been doing with a lot of my code, to be honest with you, is like understanding the core principles, but then, being able to talk to someone that can actually review your code for you and not just give you um, abstract or esoteric examples where it's like, look, this is what I'm trying to do, you know?
yeah. Oh, that reminds me, next time someone complains about AI, I'll ask them if they have their autocorrect turned off.
Ooh. Well, don't go picking a fight. Um, yeah, this is so interesting. So these aren't even textures like they don't have texture maps assigned to them. They're just materials. So it's like it's supposed to be just
Really?
emanating a brown material,
Oh, okay.
which is kind of a strange.
Yeah.
So what if I go with a legacy shader and we call it like a bump diffuse shader? Hmm. Yeah, I don't know what's going on with the textures and shaders here. Maybe this version of the Unity editor is not compatible with this project, which is entirely possible. But I
Yeah.
feel like we should still be able to make it work. I'll
What
tell
was
you
like
what.
project like an old template or something?
Yeah, yeah. So sometimes like
Yeah.
when you load a fresh um when you load a fresh save, it's like or you load a fresh project, it's using like the last version of the Unity editor that was
Yeah.
used for that project. Let's go ahead and save that. And we're just going to go ahead and open it again, see what happens, because you never know. Sometimes these things get resolved. I'm going with the classic IT approach.
Hey, well, would you, oh, do you need to check this out?
Just asking if I want to use safe mode.
Oh, oh, I get that all the time from OBS. Anyway,
And then we wonder why it crashed.
yeah. Um, no, but I wonder, like, would you do it where it's all Gundam units like Eternal, or would you do it like, maybe G Generation Genesis where it's just UC? Or could you pick an even more particular story and, like, really dive deep into the locations and the mechanics?
I mean, I'd be inclined to go similar to like a G Generation Eternal, where you do have access to all units, but unless it's like part of a specific story, you could play through just like the original stories and like not,
Yeah.
yeah, because like I think of like Dynasty Warriors Gundam, where you have like the official mode where you can play through just the stories, um, or you have like the universal mode that has you like playing through.
'Cause the scenarios could be pretty cool. Like, that's something they could do to improve the games. Like, what if there was one where the only playable units were all the mainline Gundam characters and pilots, and it's a story where you're going through all the mainline conflicts as a group. It's like a Gundam team. The real it's called Gundam
Gundam
Team.
Team.
Yeah.
Well, if it were produced by, like, BB Studio, it would have to be called, like, Gundam Battle Team.
Yeah, there you
Um,
go.
So far, it doesn't look promising as far as whether or not okay, so we do have some brown textures, which is a
Oh, there.
good sign. Let's not save and see what we've got here. So interesting. So let's don't save this. Um, so this is like the main menu version. I'm still getting this error, so if I try to load it, it's not going to work. I need to hop into Visual Studio and correct that if I'm going to get this to launch for us. Do we have like a recent open?
Oh, Alan Mitchell's saying that in his college days he was using Unity. Curious what you were building.
Yeah,
'Cause it is amazing. I mean, like, I've told
and
you
it's
guys
come a
before,
long
seeing
way.
my yes. Yeah, seeing my son, use it just randomly. Um, it's like catching him on his computer. "What are you doing? You're using Unity at that age?"
I learned it from you. All right. So apparently it says we need some extra components in order to work with Unity. Man, I swear, everything they want to make it as difficult as they possibly can. What's
Everything.
interesting is like the script came up before.
No.
So yeah, it's going to tell me that I need to fix the compiler errors. So let's just open the script manually here. So it's in scripts UI. Cannot run when setup is in progress. Oh my goodness.
Well,
But yeah, there's a what's interesting, and I've been complaining that this is an issue, like people not creating their own game engines. It does look like there are the tides are turning, so to speak. There was a company that you and I stumbled upon. I forgot. It's something Forged
oh, yeah, it was the
IO
one
or
that you
something like
showed
that.
me where they do services about helping you build an engine, optimizing a current engine.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
like, if you use, like, a Unity or Unreal, they can make customizations, like editor customizations to improve your workflow, but if you're interested, they will like, for enterprise fees, of course, they will build you a game engine from scratch, which is, I think, pretty awesome. I'm sure that they must be using some kind of, like, open source, base, like, maybe they're starting from Godot and, like, building onto it in order to make it, a little bit more robust or at least tailored to the type of projects that you're wanting to create. Because I can't imagine that they are just starting completely from scratch.
Well, how do you make an engine from scratch? When I hear, like, they made Doom or, what was or the id Engine or whatever, yeah, it had a name. Why am I forgetting the name? Anyway, from scratch, build is it build or is that Duke Nukem? Anyway, how do you do it? Do you just open up Notepad? Like, seriously, how do you start?
Essentially, I mean, I swear.
It's not like
Uh
there's some plugin for your computer called Engine. You plug it in and, "Oh, now I can build an engine."
Yeah,
Manual.
writing software is definitely far above my head, but I always, relate it back to, things that I am actually schooled in, like web design and web development. Is like I know how programming works on, like, the front end and back end of a website, and so I assume that, it's the same sort of logic, but using different languages and different actions, different inputs, different outputs, that
Mhm.
sort of thing.
Yeah, Alan Mitchell saying he has a BFA in game design, so he used Unity, Unreal Engine, and some Java-based programs to learn designing in different engines and learn different languages. That's
That's
probably the
awesome.
way to go. I bet learning multiple languages and engines kinda helps build this logic tree in your brain because you could go into another engine and almost what Sherlock Holmes does and maybe, like, figure out in an easier way what to do.
R
Deduce, yeah.
Yeah. I do wish that it was a little bit like the, brain blast scene from The Hangover where I was just sitting there and numbers flying over my head and, like, "Oh, I just suddenly know the answer."
Yeah.
It's a little bit more complicated than that. But, yeah, I mean, like, because I started with PHP, which is like a,
Oh,
server
yeah.
side scripting language, which, you use to interact with databases. And then the second language that I learned was actually Liquid, which is Shopify's, proprietary
Oh,
scripting language. It's also a server side language. It uses everything is the same, right? So it's like you, you use the same functions no matter what language you're dealing with. It's just the actual syntax of building
mm,
out those phrases is different. So like, a for loop in JavaScript is like, for, and then in parentheses, you'll say for this many variables in this variable list, run this that many times, right? In Liquid, it's a little bit easier because everything is contained in curly brackets, and so it's like you keep it's very hard to get lost in your chain of logic, if that makes sense.
wow.
They're really pushing this Copilot chat on me. Maybe I do need to sign up for it.
I need to look into buying it because I use it at work and it's so good. Like, um, yeah, it helps us so much. But yeah, for me, languages I learned first was like HTML, PHP, CSS, and just strictly because I would see those advanced editors and those old, website builders,
Yeah,
the advanced, and I would be like, oh, I'll mess around with this. And I used to just do that. I would just mess around and then I would even do it for other people in other places. But I was never an expert. I just knew the basics of what to kind of mess around with in there.
right, like, because everybody would, like, set background body as black and then text color green,
Yeah,
like,
all that stuff. Yeah, the basic stuff, or just I would look at a website and inspect what it did to do that, and then I would try to come up with, "Okay, how can I code that in here?"
everyone dogs on MySpace, but all Tom ever did was try to teach us HTML and CSS,
Oh,
like,
yeah, that might have been another place too, using it there, maybe.
oh, yeah.
But yeah, I'll have to share the link sometime. I still have an old website that I made, from, I don't know, 2000 when I was living with my parents. Adam Blue 007 tripod or something like that, and I have all this, yeah, random stuff when I would, add images and links and pictures. Yeah, fun times. I'll have to see if that actually exists.
That
Um,
is alright, it's telling me that this is not okay, I see here. So my problem is that, again, as mentioned before, I am working on a PC and I'm used to my Mac environment. And so I'm like sitting here trying to hit save using Command S and it's not saving. I'm like, why isn't it not saving?
there you go.
Control S, people.
Eh, Well, yeah, well, and so are you using a Mac keyboard currently?
Yeah. So, I mean, this is everything, it's all being controlled through my Mac.
Ah,
Which is kinda cool,
that is.
and one of the other settings that you can do is you can actually select, like, which webcams and which, peripheral devices you want to, you know,
It to be
enable
detected.
pass-through controls, um, but I haven't done any of that yet. Let's see, so I see that we've got some build profiles missing. Couldn't be loaded because it has not been added to the active build profile or shared scene. Asset bundle has not been loaded. Okay, so now we're getting somewhere because we can actually find some errors. So then let's hop in here and we'll see if we can find this said asset bundle slash. Hmm,
Well, and saying that he graduated with a focus on directing and producing. He prefers to have a team of experts, programmers, artists, and know how to communicate ideas between different people to put a game together. Yeah, a team lead. That's the best way to
exactly.
get something made is like someone with the vision. And that's how I feel I am too. It's like I feel like there are people that are better than me at all those little parts to make the whole. I feel like it's like, oh, I have this idea. How do we do this? You know, yeah, having a team of people definitely works.
Yeah, and well, I think that that goes for, I I I'm hard pressed to think of an example of where like a solo dev could do a better job, even given an infinite time constraint. Like if you were to give a solo dev 10 years and you were to give a team of talented devs 3 years, I think that the team would still generate a better product.
Can you think of any solo devs? I was about to say Alan Mitchell saying Fez, that dude that made Fez, which I thought Fez was fine. Oh,
And like
Fish,
didn't Notch do Minecraft? Like
Notch, yeah, did by hims and then there's Super Meat Boy, but I think that was 2 people. Um, FTL
even
was 2 devs.
mm,
I think Pal World was 2 people, which is crazy.
so I see that one of the issues I have here is that the input system package is active, and I think that that might be what is, what's messing us up here, or well, one of the things that's messing us up. Let's go to other settings. Active input handling, we want the old input manager. Yeah, sure, we'll save it. Um, and again, this is one of the things when you're using toolkits, frameworks, templates, whatever you want to call them. Um, some of them are built using certain tools within Unity or Unreal, where it's like obviously the input system's a big change that happened in Unity a couple years ago. I was kind of a holdout. I was like, I'm not too sure
Mm,
about this, but I've since become a believer in it. It definitely makes porting between different consoles much easier. Uh, on the old input manager, what you would have to do is if you really wanted to have pinpoint precision over what controls did what, you would have to have an individual input map designed for each console. So, what that means is, you have like a default gamepad that's like, okay, well, I assume that this button is this way and this button is this way. And so it's like if I design it around an Xbox controller, for instance,
mhm.
it's going to assume which buttons are which on PlayStation controller, and it might not be the same physical location. So, like, an X might be a cross on
Yeah.
PlayStation, if that makes sense. And so that can really mess up a player. One of the very cool things is, let's see, this project is using the new input system package, but the native platform backends for the new input system are not enabled. Do you want to enable the backends? No, I do not. That is what is causing this problem.
I mean, usually I like backends, but if you're saying not to enable it, I mean, I'll
To each their own, different strokes for different folks. Uh, but
uh,
yeah, with the new input system, it's fantastic because they actually have an auto mapper that basically says the north button when you're choosing a
oh,
button.
that's
So it's like
right. Yeah, I thought you
if
brought that up
yeah,
before.
if you select north, it's triangle, it's Y, or in
X,
yeah,
Nintendo
X
land.
on
Yeah.
Nintendo. Nintendo has to be weird. They just have to be the opposite of Xbox. It's like
Which but it's interesting because I think Nintendo's always been like that, and it's kinda correct in Japan, going from
yeah.
right to left. That's
And
interesting.
technically they did it first on the Super Nintendo.
Oh, so it wasn't like that on the NES?
Well, the NES just had the A and B.
Yeah, but it was B and then, actually, let me look it up. Because I would think it would have
Now
to be,
I might be
right? Since
misremembering.
it was on the SNES? Yeah.
Yeah,
B's on the left, the A's on the right. So that's interesting because then it was Sega that came in with the A and then the B. And, you would think Nintendo would wanna do A left, B right if they wanted to have more of a worldwide reach, but that didn't
yeah.
happen, you know? And then interesting how then Sony has to have it where X and circle are swapped for accept and cancel, and they're not even letters. They're just I mean, they look like letters, but they're just symbols. Nothing makes sense in this world. Okay, nothing.
No, no, there is no,
And
okay,
then, yeah,
build
Autonomous Sega does what Nintendo don't. Yeah, so they just, um what was the first button controller? Um, Was it
I don't
the,
know, we had we
Nintendo?
had, like, an Intellivision that was like it was almost like a classic TV remote, but
Remote,
it had
yeah.
these little slide-in cards that would change what the buttons
Yep. That was
do.
yeah, that ah, yeah, man, thinking back to those times when you played these games and they were just new. It's like nowadays games are just like, "Okay, what is just doing it better than the other thing?" Because now, games are kinda just the same. Yep.
Yeah, you and I had this conversation before when we were talking about, like, even just the idea of genres, like calling something a Souls game, calling something a roguelite or roguelike or, like, there's always a game that does it first, right? A platformer,
Yeah.
but then that game sets the precedent going forward, and then everything becomes a derivative of that, which I don't know, I mean, I I think that open world is obviously an overused term. We've talked about that before, where it's like,
Mhm.
some games have an open world and some games are more of like a just like a
Linear.
sandbox,
Yeah. Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, exactly. Um, yeah,
So
speaking of labels, here's something. Uh,
okay.
the ending of Gundam X is all about that. Of afterward, because at the end they're like, there are no new types. That is just a name you're giving this, and it's just causing conflict. When you name something and label it, you can then use that. And I was like, that is exactly that's exactly what the government and the media is like perpetuating. It's like it's
There's a
funny that
reason they call it naming and shaming.
yeah. It
Yeah.
in yeah, and it's funny just watching I was watching the last episode again, or it was last night or the night before, and just that discussion at the end. If you guys haven't seen it, you should check out that last episode because it's really speaking on kind of, what's been going on today. Because I think there are people that are fighting back, against like the labeling, in a way, but then even they're going too far, becoming what they, you know, everyone needs Gundam. Everyone needs to watch After War.
Free to stream on Tubi right now.
Yeah, which maybe I should make a video about that.
I think
I think
so.
so. It's just that After War is a good example of a Gundam that has a very clear message by the end of it. Um,
Did
that
I, like, delete the Gundam here? Okay, here it is. I was like, "I know I had a Gundam in here, right?"
yeah, you can't delete
So
the Gundam.
let's see.
Unacceptable.
So, yeah, if I can't get this thing to at least, run in this, what I will do is we can go ahead and get the animations rolling. Sammy,
Oh,
you are trying my patience, sir. Um, let's see. So, what we need is the mobile suit. We're going to go to our rig here. One of the first things we're going to do is change it from generic to humanoid. That should give us errors while importing the rig. Let's
uh,
see.
oh,
Characters not in T-pose. That happens from time to time, and sometimes you just have to force it into T-pose and then
why is it a
apply.
T pose? And why is the piece of Saikamu T? There's something up with that.
I think so. There's definitely a okay, so it still says that there's an error here, but we're gonna go with it. The reason I'm doing that, of course, is changing the default bones setup to be a humanoid animation so that we can come in here and actually use uh, some of these basic motion animations that I dropped in here. This is like the dummy that they use. Kevin Iglesias, fantastic Unity asset developer. This is one of the assets that I bought because it's so valuable. Um, this is going to be kind of fun for you guys to see. This is like
Oh,
the full display of all of the animations that this character can do. So
oh,
it's like,
neat.
you've got talking animations, you've got jumping for joy, you've got rolling and flipping, jumping, swimming, anything you can think of, and they're all rigged to design. They're designed to work with humanoid characters. So obviously mapping, and this is one of the things I bring up a lot when we're talking about like the Gundam metaverse stuff, right? Because yeah, scanning in a 3D object, like photogrammetry has come so far in the last 5, 10 years that you can get pretty accurate texturing. You can even get pretty accurate in terms of the actual model. But where things get dicey is in the actual animation of said models. What if your model has 4 arms? Like, what does the algorithm know to do with
Yeah. Ha Yeah, exactly. How does it know how a turn radius, I guess, would be for any sort of joint? Um, but
that?
then
Exactly
AI
right.
eventually will know.
One hopes.
Eventually, it will know all.
Um, so let's see if we've got a little preview here that we can pull up.
You know, it's funny when you first pulled this up, there was that orb, and I was like, "What if there was a giant Haro that was, like, slowly coming down, just looking down, and you had to, like, complete the mission before the Haro landed?" I don't know why. I don't know why.
Honestly, that would be the best time attack mode,
Yeah.
hands down. Like,
There's just something about looking outside and just seeing a giant Haro from space, just, like, looking down on the plane, just with that little looks like a smile, but it's probably not a smile. Probably about to
no,
devour. Yes, there
no,
we go, Majora's Mask. Yeah, thanks, Ultronimus. That's exactly the visuals that were in my head.
exactly right. Let's take a look. We're just gonna grab like the run animation here, and what I need to do is actually lock this so that it doesn't move on us again. Because if this isn't going to work, then I've not actually tested these animations on these mobile suits yet, so
What would be the fun in that? Because then it wouldn't be
then we
surprising.
wouldn't get to do it on stream. But you guys tell me, how has the frame rate and everything been on this? Because obviously, I think that the performance, like, I'm not
Yes.
experiencing any lag or delay on this. That when I used to be doing it, like even on a second computer wired up to this one.
Yeah, I'm looking on the Video Ninja and the stream, so that's cool. I mean, are you noticing a difference navigating the menu system?
Honestly, it's definitely it's
Snappier?
much more responsive than me working on my home computer, which just goes to show, like, come on, I had an iPhone 5S, like, of
Yeah.
course it's better than what my computer's
Wow.
doing. Um, so we do wanna configure from this model. Did I apply? So what are the messages here? It's saying that I've got some bone issues. I failed to cure my bonitis. Uh, so let's take a look in the inspector here. It says that it's not in T-pose, but we already forced T-pose. And it's, like, literally moving the arms up like a hair.
Oh.
Um, shoulder, that's the shoulder. Arm, lower arm, hand, all of those look correct to me. Oh, here we go. We have a head issue.
Yeah.
The neck. Okay, so
Hmm.
we just need a head bone in there? Is that literally all it is?
The head bone's connected to the I don't that's I
Something
know you
like
probably heard that recently, I haven't.
yeah, we it's definitely, so I see what the problem is this is the head bone is required, the neck bone is not, and so even though this got assigned to the neck, now
Mm.
we've got green. Green is good, right? That's
Yeah, I think so. I hope so.
so then if we have that configured, we have it ready to go. Let's hit apply. No more errors. It's got some 2 warnings, but What do we think? What do we know about warnings? That's
Yeah.
Warnings are for suckers. Now let's pull up our
We
animation
love
here.
warnings all over our Gundams, you know, caution.
All right,
Oh,
so
cool.
it looks like we have it rigged. Let's see how it looks when it's
That's pretty neat.
right. So it's doing something.
Good.
Obviously the shield is not incorporated into the model animation at all. It does look like it's holding two beam sabers, which is kind of cool.
Oh, man, that reminds me, character action game, it would be like Doom. I don't know why I'm saying Doom, but it wouldn't. It would be character action game, but you're the ARC-72, the middle of Odessa, and you're just slaughtering Zaku's. You have oil, like, just spilled all over you, and it's all just beam sabers. Just it's like, assassinations, like, it would be a dark game. Yeah, it would be at night, there'd be lightning. There we go.
That's something that you and I talked about when uh Requiem for Vengeance came out. It's like, oh man, it's so cool that they had like night battles
Oh,
occurring.
yeah. Yeah.
Um
It
See, we've even got a stunned animation loop, perfect for that Easy 8 getting disabled,
Oh, yeah.
scene. Um, okay, so we've got the animation portion, sort of underway. I think we can even come in here and add a Doan Zaku if we wanted to.
Oh,
That
that's
just
cool.
happens to be the other one that I pulled in here was, you know, we wanted to have a little funny snoot. Uh, let's apply this. It's probably going to give me the same warnings where this guy needs to be moved into T pose.
I take
Uh,
him.
yeah, so I think it's just because the axe is part of the model. We are just going to delete that out. So first we enforce the T pose. Did that do it? Was it really just that? No, it's still not correct. So let's go to right hand. So that's the shoulder, that lower arm. So yeah, it took the last object and made that the hand, even though it's not connected. Um, oh, I think I grabbed the wrong hand here. Tay. That's what we wanted. Apply. Done.
Nice.
And then, yep, no more warnings.
Wow.
So that means, in theory, we should be able to grab the same sort of thing here. We're going to grab this animation. Let me go ahead and lock it in the inspector so that we don't accidentally move it. We're going to look up our Zaku. There's always a lot of bouncing back and forth with this. And there we go. Now we have Doan Zaku holding his axe like a wacko. But honestly, you know what's funny about this is this is kind of like how Doan Zaku moved in the
Yeah.
animation.
Yeah.
Although, yeah, I think if you dial back the animation speed, this looks
Pretty good,
spot
like a
on,
lumbering, uh,
like a
giant.
lumbering mobile suit. Yeah.
Yeah. Huh.
The other thing that I would probably do with these, and I know that we're coming up on time here. Let's let's pull this up in the inspector. We're gonna lock this. We're gonna set it up to 1000% scale. Is that Can I not do that?
1,000? It won't even let you.
He's got a
Too
scale of
powerful.
1000. Yeah,
Like
no
someone on the
kidding.
phone, "Guys, this guy's making a game and he's trying to set it to 1,000. What do we do?" I don't know why. That's the movie right there.
Oh, for some reason my numpad isn't working. See,
Oh,
again, it was so this is what I need to do is I actually have a Logitech keyboard that I used to use. I think what I need to do is have that as my dedicated keyboard for
Oh,
when I'm
like dedicated Windows keyboard?
dedicated Windows keyboard
Yeah.
because, no Macs allowed, here in Windows land. But I'm just happy that I can have a PC now. Isn't that kinda cool? Like,
Yeah. I remember back in the day, people with Macs trying to figure out how to get a Windows machine and doing, like, imaging something using those other programs, but again, this is cutting edge stuff.
I think so. Okay, so it is using I want to not use this setting though. All right, here's what we're going to do. We are going to switch to extract the materials. Yeah, sure, we'll put them there. And then we are actually going to use external materials, which is a legacy setting. Let's apply that, which will then create an external material for us to use. That should, I'm hoping, do what we need to do in order to allow me to change our rendering style. So, like, currently it's set up to use Universal Render Pipeline Lit as our shader. I am going to go with a bump diffuse shader. It's an unlit, which, I thought this was pretty lit.
Yeah,
That was a
dude, this is
terrible
lit.
joke. Um, so
I'm
for
on the
whatever
same
reason,
page. The dad jokes,
oh
right?
yeah, we have to. It's it is our job
Yeah.
to utterly humiliate those around us. Why is it not okay? Let's try doing standard shader. I think this is where our issue is coming from. I think that I am not supposed to be using anything outside of the universal render pipeline. So, like, if I were to go with like a baked lighting as opposed to the lit in scene, yeah, that's exactly what's going on here. Is everything is the assets that I'm using are not set up for URP. They are set up for SRP.
There
And
you
that's
go.
why the shader's are
URP,
broken.
SRP. Even out.
So, again, all these, like, weird intricacies when it comes to working with Unity where it's like you have 3 different render pipelines, and if you pick the wrong one, it's like getting your taxes wrong.
That's interesting. That's interesting.
But yeah, so there you guys have it. We got absolutely 0 done. So to answer the question that was put out by the stream is, can Adam and I hack together a Gundam game, live in an hour? The answer is no.
Yeah, maybe not in an hour though. But if we had time, we would probably be the best on the earth for this task.
I think so. And like I said, this is something that I have done before, but the problem that I had before was that this was before I was a learned. I didn't go to school for this the way that Alan did.
Oh yeah,
So it's like a lot of failing. I think who is it? Is it Warren Buffett that said,
that
you know,
Galifianakis. No.
yeah, Zach Galifianakis. I'm sure Zach Galifianakis is the one that said, "You can choose not to listen to your elders when you're in your 20s and figure out everything for yourself," and that's totally an acceptable thing to do. But the downside is, you will learn at 50 the things that you should have known when you were in your 20s.
Yeah, that's an interesting balance there of what what can you pick up, from others that you can trust, and then what you learn from going through it yourself.
Exactly, because like heck, I self-taught guitar player, which I know a
Yeah,
lot of people are like, "Ooh, I'm self-taught," and it's like, "Oh yeah, that's really cool." And it's like, actually, it's kind of bad because if you think about it, it took you twice as long to learn something that other
yeah,
people figured out already and could have just told
machine
you.
learning. Yeah,
Well, I think we are gonna have to pick this up, at least once a month, like, now that we've got, the LoLa PC app going, and I actually created Adam a user profile on my account so he can access this PC, which gives us the ability to do something that you're not supposed to do, which is use your PC as version control. So, like
oh, yeah. It's like one instance.
right, like, why not just use GitHub like a real programmer? Yeah, I don't know. It's like maybe I'd rather just use Google Drive or like Dropbox or something like that. Well, here we have a cloud PC that either of us can log into, and then we can make changes to the game and they're live to the
Yeah.
other person. We don't have to there's no pull requests, no gets, no pushes, none of that. It's
Yeah,
just
that's
everything is
interesting to think, yeah. Yeah, working in the cloud, in development, yeah.
See, I'm telling you, this cloud computing thing, there's something to it.
It
So
is.
like I said, you guys, go check it out. Like I said, it's free to get started. You can use it to just stream your PCs to your other PCs, which now it's available on Mac, which allows me to stream my PC to my Mac or from my MacBook to my desktop Mac. So there's benefits there too. I always say that the biggest benefit is if you are a gamer, like a PC gamer in high school and you're getting ready to go to college, this app is so lean, it can run on a Raspberry Pi. Instead of taking your $2,000 rig to the dorms where it's going to get beer spilled on it,
Hmm.
get get a $15-25 Raspberry Pi and play on that instead.
Yeah,
Just my
that's
2
a good
cents.
idea. That is good. That's the future. Yeah,
That's the
that's
future, you
yeah.
know? But thank you guys for watching this struggle session as I'm trying to navigate the world of Windows as a decade long Mac user. And thank you, Adam, for keeping the conversation lively because at least we were able to dive into some interesting gaming topics
Yeah,
this evening.
yeah.
And hopefully, you guys have already seen Adam's review of the
Yeah,
Chokogen,
go get it, or something like that, yeah.
the Mighty Strike
Yeah.
Freedom Gundam, which
Ah, love it.
dude, it's beautiful. Like, if I had that kind of money, I would probably invest in figures like that as opposed to model kits, but,
Yeah, they can
alas.
get pricey. Yeah.
Yeah. Again, links to, Adam's stuff in the description down below.
Yep,
Hopefully, you guys have a great rest of your evening, and, we will catch you tomorrow on the
yep.
Gundam Explained show.
That's right. That's right.
Excellent. So, take it easy, y'all. Thanks for watching.